Audi's full-size SUV, the Q7, has been totally redesigned for the 2017 model year. In fact, here it is. We're going to give you a full tour and an in-depth look at all of the new technology that has been packed into this vehicle, along with plenty of new safety features as well, on this edition of Phil's Morning Drive. Audi's virtual cockpit is one of their new features that not only helps you have the right information on the screen that you can customize yourself, but it also helps with safety as well. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you look here, you can see that we're on the navigation portion of the screen. Even though you have the nav screen up here on your dash, this will allow you to put in your destination and do all this stuff, but you just glance down instead of having to look away. It's very easy to just keep your eyes on the road with this kind of a setup. The other thing that's nice is you can customize the size of these gauges, the RPM gauge and the speedometer as well, by hitting this view button on your steering wheel. It makes those smaller and gives more emphasis to your navigation screen, and you can use this little wheel to kind of zoom out and see where you are and what's happening. In addition to that, all that information is right there on the screen, along with the time, the temperature, how many miles to empty that you have, what you're listening to as far as entertainment on the audio system from any different source. It can also give you updated phone information if your phone is paired with the vehicle. It has Apple CarPlay as well as Android Auto. So it really works with just about any device as far as that's concerned. But this is probably one of my favorite screens here because the ability to manipulate the nav screen on the gauge cluster area as opposed to being up here really, I think, helps you focus more on what's happening with the road. If you actually put a destination in with this nav screen being up here, it will give you the directions in both places. But really having that come up there, it makes things easier. This car does not have heads-up display, I should mention that, but if you get heads-up display, I've heard that the version that Audi has put on this car is one of the best on the market today, also helping with safety. So I want to talk about some of these different safety features. It's just, there's so many different technologies and driver assistance features that you get on this new Audi Q7, and one of those, you know, Mercedes has their pre-safe technology, and if you go back and watch my video on the Mercedes E300, I talk a little bit about that. Well, Audi has their own version of that. It's called Pre-Sense. And what it does, it's standard, by the way, on every Q7 model. It detects your cornering. It also detects stationary vehicles, so parked cars, as well as pedestrians at speeds as you're driving, up to about 52 miles per hour, and it can initiate full braking if there's a potential for a collision in any of those situations. If you have the driver assistance package, you'll get even more technology and safety equipment, and you'll get Audi Pre-Sense Plus, which adds to the city version. And so what it does is it actually has the collision warning and emergency braking on the highway, and that works at speeds up to 137 miles per hour. So unless you happen to be driving your Audi on the Autobahn, I don't think you're going to have too many problems with that. It's certainly not here in the US. Now here's another piece of safety technology that I haven't really heard about until now, and it's called Vehicle Exit Assist. So here's what that does. You park the car, especially if you're going to parallel park on the street, and these side assist warning lights will blink. They're the same lights that you use for your blind spot monitoring. Those will blink and notify you if there's a vehicle or a cyclist that's approaching from behind the vehicle as you're opening your door. Another function that's being added not only to this car, but it's something I just haven't talked about before, and that's the rear cross traffic alert. So if you're backing out of a driveway, or you're backing out, let's say at your house and you really can't see, maybe you have some big trees, or you have a building or a side building or something, and you have a hard time seeing as you're backing out of a driveway, or maybe you're just backing out of a difficult parking space. What this does is, as you're backing up, the sensors look perpendicular to your car to see if there are cars or there's people or things coming, and so it will beep at you and let you know with some lights and different things that there are cars coming. Of course, adaptive cruise control has become a very popular option. This is optional on this Audi as well. But this actually has this, what they call traffic jam assistant. And so it helps with stop and go traffic to automatically maintain that distance for the vehicle in front of you with accelerating and braking. And I've used that before, and it's a little hard to trust it at first because you're in this stop and go traffic and the person in front of you stops suddenly, but you don't have to work the accelerator or the brake. All you really have to do is steer. Another safety feature that's available for the first time on the Audi Q7 is Night Vision Assistant. Now that's something that you've seen on a lot of the big luxury sedans for a few years now, but this car has pedestrian and also large animal detection. If you've ever hit a deer at night, it's really not a fun experience. And so having this night vision assistant works even beyond what these LED headlamps are able to do. And they're extremely bright, by the way, especially if you put them on the high beam mode, and it helps to highlight and let you know if there's somebody out walking at night or if there's a large animal. So it really helps to avoid a collision and really helps to keep you and your family safe. Audi's blind spot monitoring, I think, is probably one of the best on the market. As you can see here, these nice lights come on whenever somebody pulls into your blind spot. And I know a lot of cars are getting that. It's starting to trickle down into much more affordable cars, but not all of them are created equal. I think there's some that work better than others as far as being able to really see it out of your peripheral vision as you're driving down the road, and so this one really, I think, works well. Another nice feature is if that light happens to be on and you're not paying attention to it and you put your turn signal on, it actually will flash at you to really try to get your attention so that you'll know you don't want to change lanes, something's in your blind spot. The funny thing about blind spot monitoring is I think a lot of folks really want it on a big car or a big truck, but sometimes it can be just as useful on a small car because sometimes those end up having more blind spots, especially if you get something that's really sporty. Now, one of the problems folks encounter sometimes in a parking lot is when the lines for the spaces are starting to fade, or maybe they're just non-existent. Well, Audi has really helped you solve that problem. As we pull in here to the space, or what we think is a space, you can start to get in here and you pull in, but you want to make an adjustment. Well, all you have to do is put the car in reverse and you get a very, very high definition backup camera as well as the overhead camera on the same screen. And so this really gives you a lot of detail and you can really see where those lines are no matter how faded that they are. And so you put the car in reverse and you can back up just a little bit and you can really use the backup camera to make sure that you don't hit anything, but you can also use that overhead view to be able to really place the car in the space properly. Now, I know a lot of folks will say, yeah, well, a lot of luxury cars now have this perpendicular parking where they can park themselves in these kind of spaces, but that only works when you have other cars parked around you. So in the case of this park where we are today, not only are the lines a little faded, but there's no other cars around, so the car would not be able to park itself in these spaces. But having the option of looking at a front camera, a backup camera, and the overhead view really allows you to place the car perfectly, even a car of this size, in the space every single time. You know, as far as pricing, this car is very competitively priced compared to other cars in the segment. It starts at $49,000. And you add a few options here and there. There's some very extravagant options that you can add, like the Bang & Olufsen sound system and some of those things that are multiple $1,000 options. But really, I think you can get one pretty well equipped, probably in the upper 60s, low 70s. That's kind of what I'm thinking. After going online and building one, you'll just have to kind of see where the options shake out for you, but I can tell you that you can easily push it up over 80 if you start doing some of the high-end stuff, and depending on what you choose for an interior and as far as wheels and the sport package and some things like that. The funny thing about Audi is they have a lot of options that seem extremely reasonably priced, and a lot of stuff that ends up being a standard feature that you have to opt for on other cars in the segment, but it's just kind of funny how they do that. They have some stuff that's like, well, that's a lot of stuff and it's a $500 option, but then the Bang & Olufsen sound system is like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 depending on which model that you're looking at. It's also nice because they do that premium, premium plus, prestige, and so they kind of break it up. So if you really want a lot of features, you can just start with the prestige model, and then there's just a few more things that you can add to that if you really just want to get a fully loaded car. The way this car drives and the way it feels as the driver, I really, really like it. It's very smooth. It's got a hint of sportiness to it. It's luxurious. And I can't say enough things about how the car doesn't feel as big as it is. You know, a lot of other SUVs, especially big ones, you drive them and you feel like you're driving a big truck, or you feel like it's hard to place on the road. But this just feels like an Audi sedan that's just happens to be sitting up in the air a little bit. I mean, that's really how it feels. And I know that was their goal, and they've certainly accomplished it. Being able to carry 7 passengers and have a sporty feeling car, that is not an easy thing to do. Now, the third row in this car is not as usable as some other cars that I've been in, but you know, I think in a pinch you would be okay, but I think you'd be very happy to have the amount of cargo space that's back there when those seats are folded down. That really makes up for it, I think. But really just having that option to be able to say, I'd like to use the third row, I think that's very beneficial. As the marketplace has changed, all these companies have really had to step up their game, and Audi has certainly done that with this new Q7 for 2017. Well, thanks so much for watching this edition of Phil's Morning Drive. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.